Hello. Today we're learning an opening, and
Oh,
this opening is very close to you geographically. It is the Austrian attack.
the Arnold Schwarzenegger variation. I want
Have
that.
you heard of it before, or do you play it?
Austrian Attack. No, I. The only thing I know, of course, is the Vienna game, but that is not
Mhm.
the Austrian Attack, I guess.
No.
Hmm.
So this one works against the modern and the Pirt's defenses, and it is White's most aggressive choice against these. And
Probably I played it.
the former world champion Bobby Fischer used to play
Oh,
it, and of course many other players, a lot of the top players of today's generation too. And this one is just really sharp and right there in the center, and it's going to be with the moves d4, e4, and f4.
huh.
That's what defines it.
Off we go.
So usually
Curious.
it starts with e4, but it can also start with d4 if you want to transpose into it. So it can start like this, modern, or like this, the Pirc or the Pirc, not sure. Each of these can transpose, and at this point, there are two main ways to play specifically the modern defense if black starts with g6, and it is through d6 and through c6. Um, what
Yes.
do you what do you think is the difference, the major difference between these two?
They're so weird. I see this couple of times, and I'm always like, sometimes the move order starts actually with c6 and d6 and queen c7, and then it
Hmm.
goes to the fianchetto and the quick castling. But it is always like super automy. I think e5 is another move with this. So what is the difference? I don't know. It's like, I mean, c6 gets the queen out quickly. That's the main idea, I think. And besides that, d6 can, yeah, go for e5. Like it was like something Indian, I guess. Like
Yeah, like
king
they're
so
quite
Indian.
close and they can transpose into each other, so it's sometimes hard to tell the difference. But usually with c6, black might try to play either b5 or d5, probably not both. And with d6 first, they might not play c6 and they might bring the knight there instead.
Ah,
Or do something else. And with d6 often combined with like c5, sometimes e5, yeah. But maybe for now c5 and maybe a6 and b5. So it's just sort of a bit of a different pawn formation, but they could transpose, so depending on what the opponent chooses. But just to quickly review this one, because this one is a bit more rare. In this one, you would just play f4 anyway. And if they go for d5, then of course we close the center with e5. And I personally really like these positions as white. I feel like you have the center, and as long as you don't mess up, just maintain it, and you'll be good. So at least you would know that. And this is approximately how we would develop. You will see very often the move bishop g4. This is sort of a trademark of this of any of these variations as black. Usually black goes for that because with less space they kind of want to trade their bishop off. But I find that we don't have issues in development, so something like this, you might want to castle long, you might want to castle short. Maybe you castle short for just a bit more safety, and then you try to use the space advantage. And just one important idea in these pawn structures is to put the knight on e2 and bring the pawn to c3 to make sure that black's c5 is not too bothersome to our center. So that's like kind of the only one big one to know in this pawn structure, and that's how you would play it in case they play c6 and d5. But that one is not the most common way to play the modern or the Pirc. If they start with the Pirc, they would start with d6, so they would be committed to this move already. So, what do you think is the idea of our Austrian attack here?
I guess we try to castle short, get the knight out to f3, of course, the bishop maybe to, I don't know, c4, e2, even d3 is probably an option, maybe even b5. So those two, and then castle, and then push. Push
Hmm.
those pawns. That's my idea. I mean, of course, it also gives more pressure to the center square e5.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And you're right about knight f3. Usually you try to get a timely e5 in.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's earlier, sometimes it's later, but that's the key thing is to get that move there at a convenient moment because sometimes the opportunity disappears. But you just try to get that at the right time. And also, it's not only castle short. Sometimes you could castle long. You could also delay it a little bit and see where the position goes, but you definitely want to keep the king relatively safe. So if you can castle, then yeah, it's a good idea to castle.
Hmm.
So here there's a lot of moves, and it's always hard to show all of them so that it's memorable, but you'll see the ideas really do repeat. For example, there's we'll check out all of them because this is sort of one of the main positions of the line, the whole line itself. There's knight to f6, or actually, what are some things you find concerning as black? Do any of these moves like look scary or look like something
Yeah,
you
like
wouldn't do?
c5 is always a bit like, I don't know, a bit strange. So what to play against c5 the best would be a
Yeah,
good
that's true.
question.
I would think the same about C5. It looks really scary, but it is actually okay. So
Okay.
usually you take that pawn, and now if black takes, then we'll take this and play bishop d2. The position looks like fine, but it's actually really, really good for white. If you just get these developing moves, that king is really oddly placed, and you have super strong like squares for the future as well, and you have more space with e5. The position is really, really good if you just maintain that initiative. So that's not really what black usually does. If they take here, that means giving up the really good bishop. Also, not ideal to do. So you would be more than happy to have the dark squared bishop here and eventually put it on a nice square.
Hmm.
But I think the main concern with the c5 line is queen to a5. So the one move worth knowing here is that you just take on d6. Now, if you get taken here, just bishop to d2. So in
Wow.
this line, you kind of now are going to be ahead in development as white. So even though black will regain that pawn on d6, that's totally okay. You can even, there's even some lines like this where you might give up the pawn on e5, but you get the castling in
Oh.
and you are the one who gets a much better attack, but like rook e1, bishop b5, like so many threats.
Hmm.
And if they go for a calmer version, you can still just keep up the development and soon castle. There's even this nice move, queen to b1, with an idea of not only bishop b5, that's kind of the main thing, but also you might maybe some queen b2 attack on the rook. So a bit of an
Hmm.
untypical move, but it looks really strong once you see it. So yeah, that's actually it about c5. And even though it looks scary, if you just get out of it like that, it's actually a pretty good advantage for white.
Hmm. Okay.
So
Thank you.
yeah,
I'm less scared now against this move. I like that.
yeah, no, it always looks scary to me in
So why
blitz
does
as well.
black play this then if it's like okay?
No, it's like, well, obviously there's some other lines that maybe are not as good for white,
Okay,
and
okay.
the opponent could play it. But this is not the main move for black. Some people certainly play it. It's
I
also
see.
like, why do people play the Alekhine? People being me. Like, we know it's bad, but
Yeah,
you just play
why?
it anyway because you like it.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, it's not that bad. Just like a pretty good advantage. There's also this one, it usually tends to transpose to either a6 or c6, so maybe we won't look at this move separately. And now, yeah, the few things left are knight c6, knight f6, also c6, and a6.
Hmm.
So those are the setups that I think we can look at.
I see knight
Uh,
f6 the most often, I think.
yeah, knight f6 is the main one.
Hmm.
Yeah, we can look at it. We can look at it last probably because it
Yeah.
is the main one. So maybe knight c6. This is an okay move. Generally, black's pieces start being a bit uncomfortable if white plays correctly, and they're very susceptible to being attacked. So the first thing to do to defend this with our bishop like
Hmm.
this, um, if black ever tries for e5, we are pretty happy to take and just castle. So this is always pretty nice. But if they play this knight to f6, then this is how most games are gonna go. Like this. And here is where you want to play the timely e5. Of course, you could play preparation moves like queen d2. Maybe that would be the first reaction, but then you allow e5 themselves.
Mm.
And if you ever take multiple times, there's knight g4 in the end, and they win back that pawn, and they get a very advantageous pawn structure. So instead, you need to play e5 at the right moment. And one concept of this opening, do you think we keep that bishop on e3, or do you think we allow the trade?
Hmm. That's such a good question. I guess both works. Well, it's very awkward to try to save the bishop. So maybe we just really give it. I mean, it will have more space and more power once the pawn on e5 is traded, I guess. But for now, it's just too weak. So I don't think anything is speaking against trading it.
Okay, so the
Oh
exact
no.
opposite
Oh
is
no.
true,
Why?
but I can see why. Like, you probably don't want to put the bishop on g1 because it
Yeah,
looks really awkward.
but
So,
that's the right move. Wow.
but it is the right move. So that's one of the
Hmm.
concepts of this line. And it's not only about the bishop, it's the fact that next move we play h3 and that knight is actually much worse off. So it's not just that you want to keep the bishop, it's that you want to keep that knight there. So yeah, if they
Okay.
ever take, then next moves you play h3. If they don't trade queens, even better. You get h3, g4, and like much, much better.
Hmm.
But if not, then you can play h3 and you sort of just get that knight out of play for a while. You can support it with g4 later too, or you can start attacking even other pawns on that
Okay.
side. So so yeah, Bishop G1 is an important idea. Obviously, like, don't play it if your king is getting destroyed, but if you can save that bishop, then that's a pretty good idea. So that's about knight c6. Of course, there's more, but since we do these short episodes, they will all be in the notation rather than said out loud. So now maybe let's go to c6. We've seen that move before. This is one of the main moves. It's pretty comfortable, but we once again just need to know when to push e5, and in this case, it's a little bit early. So here,
Uh-huh.
there's usually three options. You'll see in most of these setups, the three options are whether black plays knight f6, whether they play bishop g4, or whether they play b5. So either one of these works and is pretty popular on their own, but let's say knight here. In that case, we just develop. I personally really love these positions because you barely have any weaknesses. You just need to sort of keep it together, get your pieces into the center, and maybe start an attack later. Maybe play e5, maybe play, I don't know, g4 at some point.
Hmm.
So things like that are super, super common. You just get these, and of course, black is gonna try to still win. There's a lot to do, so it's not that easy. But here, do you remember which idea we usually pursue?
G4 F5.
Honestly, fair enough. I would do that too. But I meant a more positional idea with knight e2 and c3 to support the center.
It was like, I appreciate your effort, Arnie, but how about we
No,
play a
I like
good.
honestly, like, why not? I think it's totally valid. But if you just wanna solidify the center first and then go for it, that's even better.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that idea comes back. We also haven't looked at bishop g4. So in those cases, you can kick it right away, but here the pawn on d4 is being attacked, so you just defend it. And
Mhm.
there's just one extra thing that black can do with the queen, like you mentioned, when the pawn goes to
Yeah.
c6 early. But we just give it. It's so totally okay if they take it. We're fine with that. It's much better for for white to take that pawn instead. So most likely they're not going to take it, and then you can castle long. And I really like these positions. I think you get a very quick attack.
And finally,
So
we kick the bishop.
yeah, later we'll kick the bishop. And one final thing about this c6 line is what if they play a quick b5?
Yeah, I've seen this too quite often.
Yeah. So sometimes people do play a3. Sometimes it's fine, sometimes it's a waste of time. I I actually don't like playing a3 because I feel like then black got what they wanted kind of and they might get a faster attack in the long run. So I would just rather play bishop here and if they want to kick the knight, that's fine. Most likely they'll just continue developing. And here it's really worth knowing that a quick e5 is really in order. So maybe a way to remember if black starts counterattacking on the other side super quickly with b5, then you might want to play an earlier e5. Yeah, there's other things are also good for white, but they need more precision than just this because now it's yeah, the right time to take the center and to take here. So that's just something that you would know, not too much positional reasoning
Oh
here,
wow, you
but
just give up the d4 pawn because you take the one on d6? Huh.
yeah. Well,
Okay.
you also, black is not castled yet, and they very, very rarely want to give up that bishop on
Oh, ah, yeah,
d7
true.
for, like, they will not be safe for the
Hmm.
rest of the game with their king. So that's about c6. Does that make sense for the variations so far?
Yes. By the way, after c5, it looks to me as if it's a bit like an, at least for black, it's an accelerated dragon.
This?
But yeah, but like this, of course, because of f4, this is not a good move. It's just not good. I'm coming back to that one again. I don't
Mhm.
like that for black, and I often feared it. I too often feared it. So I already learned something. But now we're coming to knight f6, right? Or did
Almost.
we
There's
miss something?
also last one, C
Yeah.
A6. So
Huh.
this is one of the main moves and one of the main plans, and I actually prefer to play it that way because
Hmm.
when I would play it as black, because I just feel like I don't know theory too much there as black whenever I play this opening. So I'm just afraid of any e5, so I kind of delay that and try to develop on the other side first. So maybe some people could do a similar approach to just go for b5 first. Looks pretty solid, no weaknesses, but obviously white is the one having the space. So this is an important point for white. What do you think is white's move based on what we've talked about?
Hmm. I still like bishop d3, and I still like the idea that we do not play a3, so we don't want to give black a hook, and we still castle. Also, what you were saying, if there's like some early development on the queen side, we can push e5. Is that
Yeah, you
correct?
mentioned all the right
Ha
ideas,
ha!
and the right one is to play e5.
I'm such
The
a good
reason,
student.
yeah, exactly. A3 is kind of costly because you later give the extra hook after c5. They could play b4 more easily, or you just kind of like spent a move on this when b4 wasn't super
Hmm.
like huge threat. Bishop d3 is looks totally normal, but black does find their play after c5.
Hmm.
Totally normal positions, they happen all the time, but that f4 move loses its power if it's not used right away, which is e5. So that's the main important thing to know. If you're ever captured here, you
Yeah,
usually would recapture with the d pawn, which is pretty good here, cannot be
this
counterattacked
would
as
have been my
much.
next question. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, sometimes you could recapture with the f, but then you have to deal with c5, and why would you want to deal
True.
with that if you could just not? So, bishop b7 now, bishop to d3, and the one important idea to know in this line. Okay, so there's a few things black can do, of course, but maybe let's just look at c5, the main move. The one important idea that white should know if they want to maintain an advantage is actually bishop to e4. Maybe not the most obvious at first, but it's because we want to get rid of that strong bishop. We want to get out of that c4 b4 business. And it's super effective when the knight comes into e4, starts attacking both c5 and d6. And yeah, things are just better when the knight is standing there and making threats. If ever this, pretty good advantage for white too. Lots of development and they can castle soon and start maybe an attack on the black king
And
or maybe some e6.
e6 looks, yeah, super
Yeah,
cool.
some e6 ideas too, you're right.
But I need to ask what happens if in, yeah, we can go a bit further back again. Like, so instead, what happens if black pushes d5, even one earlier, when the bishop is on e4 still?
We just take it.
We just take it. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
No,
very good
no.
idea. Yeah, I just wanted to test if you're really paying attention to your own
Yeah.
preparation.
Yeah, exactly. Did I pass your test?
Yes, well done.
So,
I knew I could count on you.
exactly. You basically like the knight is just standing well there. Not too much to know other than maybe this detail because it could be so confusing to know, oh, which capture do I do? Like, because you don't want to get trapped into something like, let's say this, and then all of a sudden some queen comes into e7 and then you start losing pieces here. You don't
Mm,
like we don't want to get trapped into that either.
no.
So after knight h6, we take on c5. If black wants to not be down a pawn, they have to take this pawn instead. And the thing to know
Mm,
is c6 first, and then you can take on e5. So
nice.
that works out well. So of course there's many more things with this line. Like I only showed c5, but also if you wanted other ideas, you like if black doesn't want to force things yet, they could, but it's not like you just kind of keep developing. You castle long, and that's from there on it's just a game. So I think that should cover a6 very briefly, and we can finally go to your main line that you've been wondering all along.
Now I'm curious.
Knight f6. Okay. Knight f3 is what
Sir,
we do,
that's
as
what I'm
always.
already doing wrong. I pushed e5 too quickly always.
Oh, you would have pushed d5?
I did this in countless splits games.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, look, e5 is looking like blue, so it could still count as theory. I'm sure it's a move that still exists, and that's pretty good. Sorry, my dog is in the background
That don't
ruining.
no, it's nice that Timka gives some cute
Yeah.
life in the background.
So e5 probably still okay, but you would rather like the main move is knight f3 just to wait a little bit and then play it
Mhm.
at a convenient moment. But honestly, if you look at e5 and you're happy with these positions, it's totally fine to play it. If you know all the tactics part, that's part of it. I'm all for just playing what you like and what you know better than the opponent. We should also look at c5 again, but with c5, we already know what's the idea.
Well, we take on c5.
Yeah, we just take on c5, and then if queen here,
That's coming often, exactly.
so now it is bishop to d3 instead.
Uh-huh.
That's the main move. Because, well, it's not being attacked right now, so
Yeah.
you defend, just defend an extra time. And then the reason is that you want to play queen to e2, and then the bishop can come to e3. So you just don't commit it to d2 because it has a better square.
Ah, look at
And here,
that.
I would personally not castle long. It
No.
looks too dangerous. You just castle short, and you play from here. Slightly more center. Black also doesn't have too many problems, but yeah,
I'll
it's
try that out.
slight advantage. So instead castles, this is what usually happens. And around here, after bishop to d3, this might be the main position of the main line to
Mhm.
study. Which moves concern you?
Well, still c5, still e5, knight d7, c6, those three, four.
All of them. All of them are
They
concerning.
all
Okay.
concerning. No, they're not really concerning, but these are all
Yeah.
possibilities, I guess.
Yeah. I'm just asking it that way because usually when you're playing, sometimes you've studied an opening, but then you come to the board and then you're like, actually, like that move looks concerning. I wish I had studied that. So that's why I'm asking it that
Gotcha.
way. So we can look at c5 first. It's the most forcing one. So here you could play d5, but that would not be good because now black gets what they want. They have some tricks with c4 and followed by b5.
Oops.
Some tactics happen there. We probably don't want that. So we take, that's sort of the rule that we've been following. And if ever something like that happens, you just calmly play queen e2,
Okay.
blame your center, and develop the rest of the pieces. Maybe castle long if it's ever possible, if you don't lose some pawn on a2, and keep going that way. So c5, once again, we covered that. It's not too concerning. Um, what else? So there's c6 you've mentioned, after which we castle, and very similar ideas as before. What can black do? Maybe just knight d7, b5,
Mm-hmm.
bishop g4, the regular stuff. If they play b5, we usually react with e5, so that's also good in this case. And if bishop here, we react like we usually do. We just claim that bishop for our knight. And here, just don't lose the pawn on b2 for nothing. I mean, probably they don't want to take it anyway. But if you can play knight e2 with
Uh-huh.
c3, that's sort of what we do. And you get a bishop pair for the future if you, yeah, if you open the position, they could become useful. Yeah, so that's c6, very similar to the previous ones. You also mentioned knight d7. Here is kind of an important move. What would you do?
Yeah, I don't know. If it's important, it's probably not casting. So it's probably also e5 again, because of course e5 is in distance for black as well.
Exactly. You see if
Hmm.
black is about to play e5 and if they're about to play e5, then you need to calculate it for yourself too. So here it's not super good for black to take. It's just a much worse pawn structure, so they should retreat. In which case, a fun line that I think you would like is to put the knight here and start looking at sacrifices. So if they take here, then we're very good with that, and we can even have ideas like knight to f7.
Oh, lovely.
So this one works, it wins, but with some work, you would still need to work a bit there to make the attack go on. But I think that's something fun, and at least we get a sacrifice in that line. And if like this, then a good move is e6, which I also really like. It's a very satisfying move, and it's something that you
Totally.
really want to play in a pawn structure like that. So if you see the pieces being cramped like this a little bit, could be worth looking at knight e4, knight g5 idea. And I think we're actually almost done. So we've looked at almost everything. We haven't mentioned knight a6. I've always thought this move looks really weird.
That is really
Um,
weird.
it looks so weird, but people play it, which is why I was like, why do people keep playing and getting away with it? It has a point, and it is the second most popular move in this position, after knight c6, I believe. So still very, very popular. And the idea is just to support c5 so that if you take, they will take back with the knight.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but like,
So you're
I
still
see.
not
Okay.
impressed.
No.
No. We played d5 instead, so that's sort of the exception to it.
Aha.
Um, like it looks super tempting to just do this, but for some reason the engine just doesn't like it as much because even though, well, you can, this position would be pretty good, but still they get the two bishops, so it's not that trivial. But it's the fact that they have this,
Zwischen
taking this
soup.
knight, and yeah, it just kind of they regain it, and then the position is super open, and the two bishops could be a bit more damaging than we want. So we close it, and then black is gonna try to pursue b5 most likely. So you play this like a, I guess a Benoni, kind of similar to that. So we play it in that style, trying to prevent b5. and go on like that. So same thing here. We try to prevent this. We can play maybe a3 at some point to prevent knight b4. We can play king h1, h3. Lots of moves. A lot of them are roughly the same. But maybe if we play e5, amazing, but just as long as we don't blunder the pawn on d5. That would be good. But maybe wait with it and develop first.
Hmm.
So final note is the final move, which is knight to c6. And these ones are always great if you get everything to safety. If you get your king to safety, then it's great. But here we do allow them to play e5. So
Ah.
it's not as good to just go for right away e5, although as you see, it's still blue. So it's still theory, but like after I looked at the lines a bit, black just kind of gets away. Sometimes if you're not castled yet, they get some f6, and this pawn structure is just not becoming as solid as we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather do this and allow e5 in only this particular case, because we also get d5 in to attack this knight. And here you could, depending on which pawn structure you like, you can take first and then play queen e1.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to not grab this pawn too quickly because there's this with a sneaky threat of queen to d4, winning the knight. So black does get their pawn back and gets some
Crazy.
initiative. So we just play queen e1 instead, develop next. Or you could play queen e1 right away, depending on which pawn structure you want. I don't mind either. Maybe even this one is a bit more solid because black has less space.
Hmm.
So things like that. Definitely a lot to take in. If you can ever play e5, in a lot of these cases you do, as long as you like what follows next, as long as the follow-up is safe. But yeah, a lot of ideas repeat, and a lot of these lines, they deserve a closer look, and there's some more dangerous tactics to look out for. But I think that's sort of as general as I could get with our limited time. And now you know what the Austrian attack is all about. And I think even just with knowing this, you can definitely start playing it in Blitz or even in Classical if you feel confident, and just sort of get some games and experience in. But yeah, it's a weapon I really like against as white. I've played it as white, and I also really thought it was annoying when I was playing this stuff as black.
Very nice. Yes, excellent. Excellent lesson. I learned a lot and I cannot wait to try it out in my next online Blitz games. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Svitlana, and we see each other soon enough. Bye bye.
Bye bye.